wrong? Okay, let's begin with the flag salute. If you please stand and remove your hats. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome everybody to the August 26th Marion County Commission meeting. Looks like we have a packed room. We begin with public comments. So if you'd like to make a public comment, please come up to the chair and state your name. We'll give you 3 minutes for public comments.
I'm closest.
There we go. State your name for us, please.
I'm Wayne Gehring, and I'm here with my wife, Artie Gehring. We're here in support of Brian Stuckey's presentation on wind turbines. We own and operate Pine Creek Farm. We're a Christmas tree farm in West Branch Township near Gossel. About 2,500 to 3,000 people come on our place every December to buy a Christmas tree, and most of them come from outside Marion County, which is good in economic development terms. But we know they come for the relatively unspoiled rural working farm landscape, and we're concerned that commercial wind turbines would be a detriment to that. So that's our interest in this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And also just one reminder, anybody who is going to be making a public comment, please make sure we have your name on the podium out there.
Thank you, Tina.
Contact information.
And do you want us to make a comment if we're here about the docks or the roads now?
I'd say yes, if you have a public comment.
I'm Dennis Conger. I live out at the lake, been there for 10 years. Bought a dock shortly after I got there. Unfortunately, it's on the opposite side of the lake, so I can't watch it. I've had a lot of vandalism on my dock, and just to give you a couple examples, last year when it was so low, my dock got set on the rocks, and the guy that put the new pontoons on for me said, keep people off, it'll damage the floats. So I had a metal sign made up, put it on there to keep off. First time I go down there, it was kicked over. I put it back up, but people kept going on it anyway. The sign did no good. This year, I went down there on a Saturday evening. Everything was just fine. I went back on Sunday morning, perfectly calm day, and my dock had swung around against the bank. Somehow, both cables on the dock got taken off. I can't say that somebody did it because I don't know, but I can't think of another explanation. We wanted to think about privatizing the docks. I put a camera up, and just on Saturday alone, I saw 18 people using my dock. And most of them treat the dock real well. But there's a few of them that break something up. That's been ongoing lately. I would like to see the county let us put a gate up and a lock to keep people off. If those dock owners want that. I don't think there's many that want it because most people don't have the trouble that I do. But that would keep the people off. Another suggestion that somebody had was that we put signs on that say, if you want to fish on this dock, you have to call the lake office and say, I'm fishing on it. Now, I think that's kind of a thing that probably won't happen either. But I've spent a lot of money on that dock over the course of time, and time we do something about it. Okay.
All right, thank you very much for your comments. Next.
Hi, I'm Deb Swartz. We live in Topeka. We have a house out at the lake, and again, concerns regarding the dock and the roads. We come out almost every weekend. I've seen at times, our dock's been vandalized a couple times. Not bad, but fishing lures, dead fish, beer cans, trash, that type of stuff. But we've also, when we've been out on the lake, seen kids starting bonfires on wood docks. And when you spend $15,000-$20,000 to build these docks, and people don't respect that, that can get very expensive. Our dock is on the guess, north side of the lake. You know, we have a large rock underneath our dock, and when the water's low, if somebody dives off that or goes headfirst off that dock and doesn't know that, they literally could break their neck, they could break legs. So it's concerning because, you know, then you fall into the realm of liability. You know, with the county saying that these docks are open and people can use them and somebody gets hurt, who is liable? So I just, you know, I don't know what the answer is, but I think we need to come up with one to protect not only the county, but also the dock owners. The roads, oh my God. The back roads are terrible, folks. I mean, you almost drive on them and you feel like you're four-wheeling. There's ruts, I've paid money and gone and work with our neighbor. We've put gravel down 3 or 4 times, but it's expensive. And where does the county come in with the responsibility, I guess, to help with those roads? I mean, if you provide the gravel, I think people would be willing to maybe work to get the gravel, you know, smoothed out and stuff. But it gets expensive, and you know, the hard rains wash it out, and then you're back to square one again. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time to have this discussion and allow us to you know, voice our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Cover everybody in the room. Anybody in the hallway wishing to make public comments? Okay. Anyone, if you're online and would like to make public comments, please unmute your mic. We'll try to take whoever does it first. Okay, not seeing any. All right, we'll close public forum. We may open up for public comments as we get further into discussions on specific items. And we appreciate those of you that wanted to make comments here at the beginning of the meeting. We appreciate that. All right, let's move into administrative. Ashley?
Okay.
Sorry, did you have something up?
We have the minutes of the 12th and the 16th.
Okay, commission's had a chance to review the minutes. Any corrections?
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion from Commissioner Gehring to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Second, Commissioner Dahlke. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carried 5-0.
Tabs are up.
Okay, thank you.
We have early checks in the amount of $4,250.
Commission have a chance to review those. Any questions?
Park pillar, was that one of them on the dam?
Good question. Park pillar.
At least. It says RPR, so I'm guessing that's repair.
Repair.
Yeah, it would be a repair then.
Okay, good. Any other questions?
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Dahlke has a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second, Commissioner Gehring. Questions, discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carried 5-0.
The only other thing is approval so that the clerk's office can get their office painted,
Well, I think it looks fine just as it is, the big bare spots.
right?
Okay, you got the bids that we.
Yep, we just have from Jay Christensen.
Right.
And he has to paint around the furniture, so that's estimating it may be a little less, but that's the estimate so far.
So that just the labor is just a contracted amount, it's not so much per hour.
It's basically a guaranteed maximum price from what she's saying. And it could,
Guaranteed maximum price.
it could come down.
Okay.
Other questions? Is there a motion to approve?
It says estimated cost, that's different than being a maximum. I mean, that's what it says on the sheet.
Yeah, I don't think, it's not gonna go above that.
Okay.
Do
Okay,
you want
The
clarification?
reason is because it's an estimate. I mean, they all give estimates ahead, so.
I'm just saying that when we see a bill for $2,700 or $2,750 for labor, why? Just,
I make a motion that we approve the painting for no more than $2,500.
No, 2850.
$2,850.
2850.
Including materials.
2850 is what,
Okay. Can't read it from here.
Maximum, $2,850. I'll second that.
Lights are too bright.
We have a motion from Commissioner Crowfoot and a second from Commissioner Dalkey to approve the painting maximum of $2,850. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carried 5-0. I guess you do get.
We will get painted, yes. Thank you. And that's all I have.
Okay, now I know why there was the hesitation. I didn't ask for agenda approval. The commission has a chance to review the agenda. Is there anything you'd wish to change or add?
We've already moved through administrative. I was gonna push administrative off to the back and let these other people
Well,
talk.
we're scheduled at 12:45, so I didn't want to start early.
Okay.
Anything to add to the agenda? No, all right. All right, with that, we'll have Brian Stuckey come forward.
Do you wanna wait for mine?
Yes,
then
and
to
we'll move the,
Okay,
we only have 2 minutes, so I didn't.
okay.
Ashley's in,
This is around.
Tina's asked away.
Thank you. My name is Brian Stuckey. I live in Gossel. I represent other concerned people in western Marion County who are here today. And although I am not an official representative of the Gossel City Council, they have asked me to be a courier to bring you some information. In October 2023, a story appeared in the Marion County Record to say that the Ørsted Energy Company was now looking to expand to the west part of the county in the townships of West Branch, East Branch, Menno, and Liberty. I found that Marion is a surprisingly diverse county. The northern part is different from the Cottonwood River Valley. The Flint Hills in the east are very different than the brown dirt farmland of the west. What works in one part of the county may not be workable in another part. But now we face the real possibility that 500-foot tall wind turbines will be near Gossel. There are positives and negatives in wind energy. There are some who see wind turbines as a good thing, but there are some who absolutely do not want to live anywhere close to them for a whole variety of reasons. Turbines should be placed in areas with sparse population, just not here. On May 20th this year, I made a presentation to the Gossel City Council calling for a 3-mile radius ban of wind turbines around Gossel. Then they proceeded to run an online survey of Gossel town and rural citizens, which you have in your packet. The results were made public in their July 15 meeting. It is an overwhelming response of 70% being opposed to wind turbines anywhere near Gossel. The City Council also indicated that they were unanimously opposed to wind turbines anywhere near the city. In considering this, their city attorney advised them that the city had no jurisdiction outside the city limits. So that is why we've come here to you today to discuss a wider area. In your packet is a letter of support from the Gossel City Council indicating their unanimous opposition to wind turbines in Western Marion County, and also 2 letters from Gossel business persons. Secondly, the 6 pages of the results of the survey. Third item in your packet I'd draw attention to are 4 pages of maps of the 4 townships in question with 1,500-foot setback circles drawn around each residence that would indicate population density, a strong reason for objecting. One item is a map from the Harvey County Planning and Zoning Director of counties around Marion which have had either a complete ban or a permanent moratorium. The obvious question here is, what do they know that we don't know? In conclusion, on your last page is a call for an amendment to county regulations in Article 27 for a permanent ban to commercial wind turbines in West Branch, East Branch, Menno, and Liberty Townships. This is short, clear, and clearly in line with what the vast majority of residents want. So I am asking to begin a conversation and take a new look at the county regulations. Thank you. At this time, I'll take your questions.
Any questions?
What paper did you say that showed up in?
Marion Record.
Marion Record? Who was that from? Wind Farm?
I don't know who reported that.
I did, but it's been quite a while back.
It's October
Months ago,
2023.
yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying it wasn't a legal notification from the wind farm.
No, it wasn't a legal
No,
notice.
they haven't contacted us, done
Right.
what to us.
Right. Right.
So I just want everybody to know that the wind farms has not done what they should do.
People came in. County residents came in and talked about it.
Yeah,
That's how it
yeah.
came out.
But I mean, the wind farm has not notified us of anything yet, and that's very sad of a company to, they've even published it across the United States. I think Tom Britton forwarded us a letter of what they did, and, you know.
Well, the way they operate is they will go to individual farmers, ask
Yeah.
wind leases. Once they have a critical mass of wind leases, then they'll come to you to apply for
Yeah.
CP.
But we've had other wind farms do it another way and alert us of what's going on and stuff like that. This company hasn't, so.
For this, okay.
I'm just making it clear.
Okay.
The first people that was contacted around Peabody give me a call, and I asked the company to come talk to us. They won't come talk, so.
Okay.
Mr. Stuckey's absolutely, you're absolutely correct. The wind farm or projects, they have to get leases before they, to a critical, as you said, a critical mass before they can make the application. Once they make the application, then the clock's ticking to go through all the process. So you're exactly right about that.
Has there been evidence of leases,
Yes.
new leases?
Well, I don't know how many signed. I know that farmers have been approached. And there's others that could speak, others who live in the rural areas could speak to that better than I could.
There's leases out.
How many? You don't have to answer this if you don't want, but how many of you have been approached?
Some of us don't have enough land
Okay.
to be approached, but our neighbors have been approached.
Well, I've got some ground in Menno that I haven't, or Liberty, just outside Menno, but I haven't been approached, so I'm just trying to.
West Branch, people have been approached.
If I may speak, quite a number of people in Minnow Township have been approached.
Who did the survey? Where did this come from?
Okay, that's a city of Gossel. That's after I gave my presentation to the city council. Well, then they wanted some numbers. So they did the survey themselves. And where it came through was Gossel doesn't have a newspaper, but the city clerk puts out a monthly email newsletter like calendar and upcoming events and 4-H and things like that. And it was through there, and then also on their city Facebook page.
I've seen it on Facebook. I've seen that survey all on Facebook, so.
Any other questions for Mr. Stuckey? We do have our planning and zoning administrator online. Sharon, I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. And Mr. Stuckey's comments and in his reports, he talks about, different possibilities of a buffer zone around the city. What is the current buffer zone around the city?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So currently they have an area of influence.
There we go.
That means that any applications that would come through to the planning and zoning board, the city would be provided notice of that application, and they would have the ability to respond to that application as well as the Marion County Planning Commission. So the city does not currently have extraterritorial jurisdiction, which is a different type of zoning altogether, where the city of Gossel would have more abilities in controlling what goes in and around their city.
That would be providing infrastructure and stuff out to that 3-mile radius, and it gets pretty expensive in order to have that much more say-so. That's what she's getting at.
That's correct. So the extraterritorial jurisdiction definitely comes with more responsibilities from the city itself. It can be very expensive because they would be required to provide wastewater systems and water to the area that they choose to have jurisdiction over, among other things. But the area of influence gives the city the ability to have more of a say-so without necessarily having those responsibilities to provide infrastructure.
Also weighs out the, so if it did come from planning and zoning and the city was opposed to it, it would allow 2 commissioners to reject it, whereas it doesn't take a majority. Then it goes back to planning and zoning, and they revise it, scrap it, do something, and then it comes back, and then it goes back to the majority rule. So it does give an extra layer.
So what are our next steps here?
To accomplish the buffer zone is what you're talking about, right?
The buffer zone of either a radius or a 4 township, either one.
So we just had a public hearing, a few months ago. There was quite a bit of discussion leading up to the actual text amendments that were approved in the month of June 2024. The city of Gossel does have an existing area of influence as a result of those public hearings. And it's approximately a mile around the city.
People I've talked to say that's not enough.
So is it possible to amend that? And also, what about other cities, specifically Hillsborough?
I'm gonna let Sharon respond to that. Sharon, did you hear the question?
No, sorry, I did not.
Could you repeat?
Yeah, so number one, that 1 mile radius around Gossel, that's an area of influence. Is that still something that is on the table to be negotiated? And then also, is an area of influence also in play for the city of Hillsborough?
So the first part of that question, the text amendments have already been made and approved by the board and by the governing body. There's a resolution. They have been adopted in our Marion County zoning regulations. Also the same for Hillsborough. The city of Hillsborough had that same opportunity. We sent out letters. We held several discussion meetings. We really didn't get a whole lot of feedback at the time. I've sent emails, requested that people attend those meetings and give their feedback. So currently those areas of influence have been adopted. They're called Appendix A in our zoning regulations, and you can find those on our planning and zoning website. In the zoning regulations, it will be the very last item under Article 27, Appendix A, and it will show you the areas that are designated around each city, and they range from about, I believe, a half a mile to 2 miles, depending on the city and just the geographical, some things that make sense. Does that answer your question?
Well, it does, but is there still the possibility to amend those?
There could be, if the Board of Commissioners would like for us or the Marion County Planning Commission to revisit the zoning regulations, to make a text amendment, to change that area of influence, then the Board of Commissioners can direct the Planning Commission to take a look at that.
Doesn't the city council have to support it then, if they annex that in? The services?
Yes.
So it'll be up to the cities.
Oh, sorry.
They want to take on that expense in the future.
This is an area.
That's two different things.
Yeah.
This would just be an area of influence. It would not be extraterritorial jurisdiction. This would, I believe, if I'm understanding the question correctly, they're asking if they can expand that area of influence out further than 1 to 2 miles. They're requesting, I believe I heard 3 miles around the city of Gossel.
The survey shows more.
5.
Yeah, the survey shows 5 to 10 miles.
They were talking about 5 because of the survey.
5 miles.
So Sharon, one of the other issues raised was the exclusion for those 3 townships. Would that be the same process, 4 townships? Would that be another one that would come from the commission or from the planning board? And what would be the process on that?
I'll need to do some research on that. I know that we have some overlay districts.
Yes.
And you can add or subtract those overlay districts, but to get a more definite answer for you, I'd like to do a little bit of research first.
Okay, I think that would be agreeable, get more information.
So maybe
Okay.
look at the population densities and that way you're not just writing rules because we don't like it, you know?
You're talking about 2 different things here, as I understand, area of influence.
Yes.
Which has a whole lot of other complications
Yes.
with it, versus a,
No, extraterritorial.
Actually, we're talking 3 different things.
Extraterritorial would be a whole lot more expense to the city of Gossel, like they would, or Hillsborough, either way. They would have to build out and have infrastructure available in order to have a say-so.
okay.
Real say-so. The area of influence is, if it comes within that jurisdiction, then the city's voice at the planning and zoning carries extra weight.
They carry extra weight, but they don't have authority though.
They don't have the authority. It still comes to this desk. But at this desk, if there was the authority flexed by the city, it allows it to not be a majority to decline going forward, and then it would have to go back to planning and zoning.
But to have what we're talking about just a ban, is an amendment to the regulations. That would be the simplest and the least cumbersome. But it would have to go through planning and zoning, is that correct?
I believe the county commission would have to direct planning and zoning on
Yes.
what they want them to consider and do.
Right.
I would like to take a look at a couple of things. I know that we have some contracts in place and some different things in the regulations that I'd like to do a little bit of research and get back to the Board of Commissioners.
Right. I think that's appropriate. Brad just got here. He'd like to do some research into it also. But I think there's consensus to gather more information and see what our options are from the commission.
Pursue a population density where it doesn't, then it limits where certain things can be built based on population density.
Okay, but how would you feel that, let's take Gossel as a certain population, Hillsborough a certain population, what's the next one? Lehigh is all sitting over there.
I'm talking about townships.
Yeah, but I'm saying about the cities, this area influence. How would you feel, why would you give one town 5 miles and then another town 1 mile or something like that? How do you, I mean, would one town?
It would need to be standard.
Just asking how, I mean, that's.
That'll never fly in the north end. Because there's no one within that area.
Town.
No people. No people. Yeah. So the space at like a Tampa is a mile setback. And that worked out just fine. Because you don't have the population density. That's what the map was very, very good. I really appreciate the population density map. You can see that around Gossel, the population is very, very dense. And there's really no space to even put any renewable energy.
Around the perimeter of the maps too. So they went and selected all the towns or the houses within the township.
Right.
But that didn't put the circles around the houses that are just outside just to add that much more bubble.
Right.
I mean, it really closes it down if you look at it that way. It really just shows population density that shouldn't even be being discussed.
Well, and that's part of the process after an application's made, those things are discussed, but of course that's down the road. And I see what you're trying to accomplish is to prevent it from getting it to that point, if it's not going to pass anyway. So I think let's give Sharon and Brad some time to do some research. You presented us with a good proposal that we can consider, and let's see what the options are that we can do. Does that sound agreeable?
Yeah, appreciate that.
Sharon, does that sound like something we can do? Gather some information?
Yes, I think that's definitely necessary. I also want to bring up one more point.
Okay.
Just, with planning and zoning, we want to make sure that we're helping those who want to develop to be able to do that, but also protecting those who do not want the development in close proximity to their properties. I think that part of the issue with having an expanded area of influence was that some citizens were concerned that it would preclude them from being able to use their land as they wished also. So in other words, if you have a 5 mile area of influence around a particular city and there are landowners who wish to participate in a conditional use application like that, it may preclude them from being able to participate. So then we're stepping on their rights as well.
Okay. All right, we will gather more information. We'll keep you posted. Is it all right if we kind of use you as our key point of contact, Brian? Tino, as we move forward, we'll try to keep Mr. Stuckey. Yes, thank you. Appreciate the information.
Chairman, I'm trying to understand why this is not working out here when you've got this many people out here that need to hear what's going on.
Okay, I didn't realize it wasn't working.
There's nothing going on out there, so none of these people just heard what they came for. So I just want to, I thought that should be working.
It should be, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I think Ashley's sending the message right now to get that correct.
We'll have to get on the computer.
I apologize.
Minutes.
Watch the replay.
The only other thing that well, if it gets to the Planning and Zoning Commission, make sure everybody comes to that. I mean, that's the first step. And if you get them where they know what it is, right off the get-go, I mean, it don't get clear to this point then.
And to get to the planning and zoning, that would be by the direction of the commissioners?
Well, if we throw it back there, yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes, right. And then, but what I'm saying, once it gets there, make sure you come.
You have to make sure it gets there.
You guys,
You guys will make sure it gets there though, right?
We're gonna take whatever they come back with us. And go from there.
We'll gather the information and we'll go from there.
There's,
so one quick question on that. So before this even gets rolling, I mean, with anything going to planning and zoning moving forward, do you guys have to be approached by an energy company, or how does that work?
No, the planning and zoning policies are all in place prior to any developments. So it's basically building a box, and if whatever they're wanting to do fits in that box, it can be done. So you have to shape the box.
So it's good to do it now.
Now, once they submit their application, then we can't change the rules.
Yeah.
Because they've submitted their application to play by the rules.
So a defined CUP then, you guys have been through this several times.
conditional use permit.
Yeah. So does that have to be decided and approved for every project that goes forward?
That goes forward?
Yeah, I mean, as far as, so if this was to move forward and they came to you for an application for the permit, right? You still have to grant that CUP, and also setbacks, everything that applies to that CUP, it doesn't fall back to the last one, correct?
No, it's always got to be agreed upon.
Each project is independent of each other project, yeah.
Considered a new
It's
project.
conditional use permit because the land use right now is deemed agriculture, or it's deemed whatever. It's not industrial wind.
With a conditional use, it's not a prohibited activity, but it isn't something normally contemplated within that zone. Okay? It can be something that can be done. In order for that to occur, then it has to go through a fairly distinct process with planning and zoning as the hearing board, and they make a determination subject to what conditions can this particular use be allowed. Okay? And they can establish a number of standards, whether it is in a given circumstance, if someone wants to butt up against a residential area with a commercial use, and you know there's going to be a parking lot, a lot of noise, and there's lights, they may be required to have buffers and different kinds of things to attempt to blunt that for the benefit of the contiguous and adjacent property owners in a residential area. Same kind of concept here in a county where zoning is being used throughout the county.
Yes, Randy.
How many people's out there?
There was 10 or more. There's more than that now.
Did everybody sign the sheet?
I don't know if they've signed or not, but, okay, so we've had a meeting now.
14.
We've had a meeting. These people are interested in doing something to that effect. So Wind Farm goes out and reads the newspaper. Marion County people is gonna ban it. They're gonna come in here and throw something at us, or maybe, I'm not saying that they would, but I'm saying possible. Where does the commission have the right to put a moratorium on to make it stop until, if we have a group of people like this, I think this is what Harvey County faced, and hold the whole thing off, whether it's for or against, to make these determinations.
That was one thing I was interested in, is because I never heard the word moratorium expressed one time. But yet it seems like everybody's pretty much against any development, period. Well, if you're against that, you're asking for a moratorium to me, but I haven't heard that word yet.
Well, that's.
We would like one.
I was saying, I don't think anybody would be opposed to that.
Well, I mean, somewhere, what I'm getting at is, just because we say we're gonna hold off till planning and zoning gets there, well, what happens in between time? That's my question.
Could we get a temporary moratorium, like a one year or 5-year moratorium?
I don't know, there's more rules than I know.
I think you can put one on for specific time, yeah.
I know McPherson County put theirs on to study their 911 system. And that may, there's no timeline on that. That's how long it takes to study their 911 system.
But Harvey County put it on to study the wells, the water, a lot of stuff when solar and stuff like that too. So they have solar over there, some of them, small ones, but anyway, I'm just saying, I think maybe we ought to think of it right here.
But you also gotta, there's a group probably that's for it.
Oh, that's why the moratorium's on, so you can hear from them too, because
We should
you
hear from
don't know
them.
how many I've heard from, about 3 people, yay,
Yeah.
and no, not nay, and nobody yay. That's called me in the last 6 months out of this area, which is my 2 areas up there, Liberty and
Way more
West or East.
yays than I've heard. I think I've had 1 yay.
And I haven't had a yay yet.
I might have had 2.
All right, well, we're back to a point, we'll gather information and we'll bring it up for review, I think next week.
Depends on what Sharon is looking at
I
planning on.
probably
but
need a little more time than that.
I don't know that it.
Okay.
So I'm confused about the moratorium.
I am too.
I guess I'm kind of,
Dropped.
I'm kind of with Randy. If they read the paper and come file something tomorrow, then we would have wished we'd have had a moratorium in place to hear everybody's voice here.
Right, well,
So could we have a moratorium today?
I don't know.
Largely because, not because you can't instruct that one be created for you to approve, but that's in writing, particularly in a county where you've allowed 2 of these projects already. You can stop and say, we've got enough of this, for example, if that's what you feel. Or in our area, we just absolutely don't want it. And it's universally accepted that we don't, or at least the vast majority. So then the moratorium is written saying we've got enough density of this type of process in place and development, and we don't wish to have any more, at least at this time, till we study it more fully to see the positive and negative impacts of what's already here, for example. That allows you to justify it, and you don't have someone coming in here from a development company saying, wait a minute, you've allowed it twice. Why would you not do it now? And then suddenly the county's in a bind and the attorneys make money because of that challenge.
But doesn't Brian's City of Gossel's challenge, doesn't that have some kind of clout to set
It's a
one?
challenge, but it's not a moratorium.
But I mean.
It'd be the basis for you to consider one, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
And that's where the point we're at is to gather information to make an informed decision. Not gonna make a knee-jerk decision and get in trouble.
Okay.
But we are gonna gather the information and pursue.
Okay, then I guess, what does it take for us to get, the commissioners get information about a moratorium that we can understand, so we know what we can do?
Look at the county councilor and say you'd like information.
And give him a deadline.
Ditto.
Information.
Okay.
The question is when.
I think there's
Next week.
2 commissioners here, one with Gossel and one with the townships right close to him, that's very, very interested in what we can do.
September 3rd.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I
Yes.
make another statement, please?
Yes.
Okay, so for those of you who, I understand that you would like to look into possibly a moratorium until we have more information. One thing to help ease your minds is that if an application were submitted today and that public hearing were to be held, special conditions could be placed on that CUP as well.
Yeah.
I know that with this the wind farm that was most recently approved, there was a condition that there could not be any turbines within 2 miles of the city of Peabody. And that was not in the regulations at the time, but it was a special condition of that particular CUP.
So there's another avenue to pursue to.
Right.
To do
It's
something before
best
there's
to have it in regulations ahead of time. That way the developing companies know what to expect and the citizens know what to expect. But they can definitely, have reasonable conditions while they're considering the approval of that application.
I'm involved with these on a consulting basis in 3 other counties at this point, and one of them in particular made those changes because depending upon where these were going to go, the density of population, very similar to what you're discussing here today, was significantly different. And so they wanted setbacks or a safety zone or distance, call them different things at different times, from any habitable area or inhabited section. And so they went from so and so many feet to extended it out significantly further around those, and you can do that, and planning and zoning can do that. So there's a number of ways to regulate density and placement and all of that, if it's even gonna be considered to go forward.
I got one final comment. When we voted for this last wind project, and Sharon, I'd like for you to kick in on this too. When we voted for that, we asked, because there was so much different companies in and out of ownership and stuff like this, we asked, is this all that you're interested in? This company has said, yes, this is all, we're proud of the area we're getting, and there's no further
Expansion.
That was stated by this company. That's why I'm so perturbed, because we voted on that. Then here they come, what, 2 years? 2 years later? 2 years later, and here they come to the rest of our county. So just take it for what it's worth. I mean, I think it's not good. I mean, when they do that, so.
Yeah, I know they definitely said that they were not interested in expanding to the south because of the voluntary moratorium area to the south of that project area, the Flint Hills moratorium.
Kind of cuts over, it goes down 77 and then jots over.
Yeah, okay, so.
Right. They were not interested at all in any kind of expansion that direction. So as far as expanding further to the west, the only explanation, and this is just my thought, is that the development company is the one that submitted the conditional use permit application, and then the company was sold to Orsted. So Orsted may have had other motives or expectations for that wind farm.
It also depends on how you ask the question. On the existing project, to the south, when the question is asked, do we intend for it to be expanded in any way, the answer is no, we're happy with what we got. But that doesn't mean we won't go west, another part of your county, that would allow us to spread into McPherson County and do that sort of thing. That's a completely different project. That's not what you asked, is one of the arguments you'll get.
Anything else?
There was quite a bit of opposition for the Sunflower Wind Energy Center to expand to the west already. So they voluntarily pulled their footprint back to the east more during that time. So I'm honestly kind of surprised that they're still interested, or that this group is interested in moving to the west.
Well, they don't care, because I called that guy that day that contacted my first landowner that called me. They don't care. He gets paid to do what he does. That was his answer to me. So.
All right, we'll get more information and revisit it September 2nd. Okay. All right, third, yes, 2nd is Labor Day. Okay, so the 3rd, Tuesday. All right, thank you all for the information. We'll gather more and we'll see where we go. All right, make some room for the next segment. Ashley? Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Should have spoke up sooner. Speakers weren't on out there.
Next Chuck earlier.
That first story in October was because I heard they were talking to people. I asked them. It wasn't long after that started coming to talk to you guys. Let's talk about it.
If we could open the doorway, please. don't block the doorway, please.
There's some seats if you want to sit down. Are you gonna skip the EMS and go to Isaac, or what's your plan?
Well, I had text.
He's here. So what would you like to do?
Oh, I guess if Chuck doesn't mind.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I kind of already warned
You
him.
told him?
I warned him.
Thank you.
He probably doesn't mind at all. He'll let
Yeah, let the
clear
rain
out.
out a little bit. Sorry, rearranging a little bit here. All right, so we're adjusting the agenda. We're gonna move EMS until after the Park and Lake discussion, because I think most of the public is here for the Park and Lake discussion. I think we had it set first for Isaac to talk about the docks. Is that how we'd like to start?
However.
Okay. All right, let's start with the docks. Between you and Brad, what can you help us out with here? Let's start with us.
Okay, so I mean, I'll just tell you what I know. I was asked to come into, discuss some vandalism of the docks that's been going on, or that has happened over the course of the last, 2, 3, 4 years. And, we've talked about this a lot.
Yes.
Just kind of the dock situation and them being private and open to the public and the things that go on out at the lake, throughout the summer with that. I've spent a lot of time thinking about, what the possibilities would be, what we could do, what we couldn't do. It does happen from time to time, and sometimes it's more, what do I want to say, more on the vandalism side as opposed to the littering side. It happens to the docks, it happens to our restrooms, it happens to the heated dock. Unfortunately, it's a problem, when you have a place where the public can come out and use, not everybody's as responsible or as kind as you would like them to be. I do know that the dock owners, the ones that show frustration with the littering and all of that, 100% you understand that. I know when I started there, those docks were usually selling from $4,000 to $5,000, now $20,000 to $30,000. So when you have a lot of personal money wrapped up into something like that, and the public, does go down there and leave trash or whatever the case is, you go down there to use your dock and you got to clean up after the people of the public because they have to leave it open for them to use. As far as what the solution is, I don't know. I really don't.
Mr. Dock.
What signage do we have at every dock area around there? Just one sign, any signs?
So, as far as the private docks go, there's a handful of dock owners that do have signs, that say various things. Some of them say, private dock, please clean up after yourself. There's a few that say they have like their in use by owner that they'll put up when they're using their dock to keep people off of it, as far as anything that says keep off or private dock, there's only a couple that have something similar to that. The majority of them don't have anything. I know on our docks, like our heated dock, we have multiple signs out there that kind of state what you can and can't do out on the dock that. But as far as the private docks, I'm gonna say out of the 84 docks that are out there, maybe 4 or 5 of them have some kind of signage on them.
We have a past Harvey County East Park Director that has some same situations, and I talked to them last year on this dock deal. And they went after a program where they signed it real hard, and then them gentlemen come in and started pushing a little bit. And checking, middle of the day, stop and check, say, hey, you're on a private dock, is this your dock? Just checking, say, you do not do this. But he was very impressed with what just that person in signage did, meaning police officers, sheriff's officers, or whatever it takes. So I'm just throwing that out for you guys to think about, that if we don't have no signage out there to help the landowners, why?
I'm gonna back up to Brad, because I was intrigued by several of the comments that were made today and then one submitted in writing. And I know we've had this discussion before, and maybe I'm just not remembering it, but at this point, we have private people have docks, but they're open to the public. Yes. Is there an opportunity for privatizing docks? Help me understand or
The entire gamut is available as to what we want to do with them. The way this was established, based upon the fact that it starts out, think of it like an easement. That may be the easiest thing for people to understand. And in some instances, you may, for example, share a driveway with someone, and each of the parties there has an easement, but those are still constrained to 2 or 3 or 4 private parties. What we have is a privately owned dock that can be insured and to a limited degree controlled. Mm-hmm. And if you are the owner and you're on it and using it at the time, you have first right, okay? Beyond that, however, if you're not on it, and again, if you're on it and say, no, I don't want you on here while I'm on it, you have that ability. But anytime you are not utilizing the dock, those were all built under the circumstance, in terms of we transferring the right to a private party. Now you own it, you maintain it, you take care of it, but it's still accessible to the public. So we retained that easement to the public use. Do you want to go ahead and get rid of that? Maybe, I don't know. That depends upon this body as a policy setter as well as owners and the public. If you do, can you do it? Yes, you can. We can go ahead and extinguish that right, in essence, give that easement up and allow it to be privatized. You can do it on just a certain number of them, as long as you have an articulable reason that everybody's being treated equitably. Anyone who requests having it come off, would have to follow that standard. Well, we're going to keep so and so many in a distance, and first right of refusal. So first right first come, first served among people who could come in and say, I want mine privatized. You can set up a system where you keep it public. We control it in more detail than we do now. Privatization is somewhat restricted, but we pay a fee, an annual easement right. So the taxpayers pick up the tab for the general public to continue to use it. I can give you any number of alternative solutions. I just don't know what's going to be acceptable to the private parties who come to Isaac or to you and say, this is just not working. And I get it. They're carrying the insurance, they're maintaining the dock, but yet people will get on there, and like in the one that we got this morning that you sent to me, which I appreciated getting, I completely understand, because I've witnessed that, where you get individuals who may or may not be slightly impaired, becoming less than polite and saying, what the hell are you talking about? I have every right to walk in here. Well, no, you don't understand the law, and they're not interested in learning at that moment. So it's difficult can we send the law enforcement out there? Yeah, but during the height of the season when they're being used, do we have enough resources? Your sheriff would ask you for a lot more in the way of budget if you're gonna have to go out there and attempt to enforce that at a level that's really gonna effectively, completely take care of it. I agree, I did the same thing. I've asked in several of the other counties, Morris and several of the others where there are still other reservoirs or lakes that do this. Many of them have raised the white flag and said, now we're either gonna keep them all public and we'll take care of it, and the property owner can use it just like anybody else, and it may be attached on the edge of your property, but it's not yours. But we've got so many out there, I think there's an excess of 80, aren't there? I don't know that financially, given everything else that you've got to spend money on, that's gonna be viable or feasible. So, which choice you make, it's up to you. That's why you get the big dollars to sit here and make these decisions. But I can tell you that you do have all of those options. We can go all the way from leaving it as fully privatized, and then they control it completely. Somebody's on it, they can call law enforcement and say, I want them off. And only by their permission expressly could any of those docks be used, and they can sign it, chain it, whatever they wanna do, all the way to we make them exclusively public, and you as a private property owner just happen to have like a street light out in front of your house. You just happen to have the luck of the draw that there is a dock very handy, but you don't control it in any way, shape, or form. It's not your domain. And usually in those cases, we are the ones then that take care of all maintenance.
What happened if someone had that camera that we heard this morning and they saw some damage being done? Would that be admissible for?
If it's on camera, absolutely.
We have am I allowed to say something?
I'm gonna allow, yes, I will.
I'm the same with him. We had 16 people different times Saturday, so you could have got 16 different calls. I visited with the security person that drives around the lake, and he didn't realize that there was any vandalism. I've watched across from our dock there being 20 people at one time. It's continual.
Well,
And we have a camera with showing all of that.
but again, if it's public access, there can be people on the dock, but if they're causing damage,
Right.
then we have the issue. Then the next question is, how serious the damage? Yes, lighting a
And we've
bonfire and
had that
burning it.
damage.
Yeah, absolutely, that's very significant. So I guess my struggle is going back and forth. And then what calls do you get just because, okay, there are people on the dock? Well, that's actually not.
Well, and then on the flip side of it, you have, which, from my perspective, I get both sides, the dock
Yes,
owners, then you
yes.
get the public side. And with the way the rule is now, a lot of times what happens is you have somebody from the public that goes out that's maybe not out there causing any problems. And they're using a dock, and the dock owner comes down and says, hey, this is my dock, I'm gonna use it. So the person leaves and they watch the person that owns the dock go down there for 30 seconds, then go back up to the house. And so, I mean, once again, it's a very unique situation. And when you hear both sides of it back and forth, it kind of, I know that from all the dock owners I've talked to, you hear a lot of them say we should privatize them. You have some that say, I do not want to have to pay a fee. I don't want to privatize them. I've had a dock for 40 years. I want it to be the way it is.
I'm one of those.
And so
Let's kind of keep it, Isaac has the floor.
So once again, the legalities or the challenges to do something like this, I didn't know if it would be something to where if you want to, there's some form or something that we can go through. You have your right to privatize your dock. You pay a fee. I don't know. But then, and I don't know if maybe the county, with maybe some of the money that we make from those fees, we could turn around and put those towards building maybe some more county-owned docks, whether it's 5 or 6. Because right now, we have the heated dock, we have our 2 public docks by both the boat ramps.
Right.
And that's it.
How much room would you have for another couple docks?
So and that's it. The way that I looked at it from the lake, there are definitely coves, which is where the majority of the people like to go. Especially on a weekend to get away from all the boat traffic and all of that. There are coves where there are definitely room. There are some that I don't, in my personal opinion, you wouldn't want to. At some point, too many's too many. But I'm thinking like 5. If you added 5 public docks evenly spaced around the lake, that would at least give people another opportunity to fish off a county-owned dock. Now, if you did this and you said, okay, if you want to privatize, you can privatize, how many would do that? I don't know.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, right, and that's it. It's hard to say if it would be 10, if it would be 40. I don't know.
So I'm gonna come back to Brad. What are the pro and cons of kind of the scenario that Isaac's explaining? We give an option for some to privatize, and then we have some remain public.
There's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, you allow for and preserve some flexibility. And depending upon how you go about doing that, because right now you start with the broad premise that all of them are a certain category. How are we going to determine who? Well, that may solve itself. There may be private dock holders who are like, I don't care. They can use it all they want. I don't even go out there. I don't know. And so it may be that you sort it out on the basis that everybody that comes in and asks gets to make the change. That,
I think that's a.
you know, that then you've equitably applied the standard.
Allow them the option of privatizing.
Now, if you get all of them, suddenly you have no public access. We do have, you know, we have still ours, but, you know, then it becomes, hey, you know, people who own it get to put one in, you better get to be friends with one of
That's why
them.
I think we need to be looking at
Coming back to
more
what you-
private, for public dock.
I mean, if you privatize things, you're gonna have to charge a yearly fee. Cause you're gonna have to buy Isaac a boat. And he's gonna need a boat to go around and check the docks from the water. Cause he cannot drive around and walk up and down them hills, checking all those docks.
Well, and I was gonna say, I
You don't
mean,
have a boat, do you?
but that kind of brings up,
Seaworthy?
but it brings up the problem of, cause I mean, realistically,
You have to pay for the service.
yeah, 4th of July weekend, for example. I mean, there had to have been around 1,000 people out there. And everybody is out on the docks, you know, watching the fireworks show or whatever. Trying to envision all of those being private and you having to go down there to every single dock. And, you know, some of them, I got permission from the owner. How do you prove that? That part of it, I haven't.
So the owners
done the
would be
credits.
responsible then for adequate signage. No different than your beware of dog sign and some of those things in a private residence.
They would have to have.
They're not expected to enforce the law. It's gonna follow the sheriff at that point or to ISIC, but yeah, be a headache.
That'd be one thing that I guess would.
How do you justify the privatize when it's on public ground and it's on public water?
An annual fee. For the easement.
Just for clarity purposes.
Okay, just a second, Commissioner Crowfoot, and then I'll get to you.
When the people bought these docks, created the docks, owned them, they knew what the rules were. That they had to share with their neighbors. So, it created a lot of problems.
Sorry for, now it's your turn.
We've had a dock out there for about 20 years, and we've had some good things happen, some not so great things happen. My question, I think legally, when you say if the owner's using their dock, then you can ask other people to stay off. When we have a pontoon on our boat, on our dock most of the summer, and when our pontoon is out there, we put a sign up that says dock in use by owner. It doesn't block the pathway, but it makes it very clear that it's an owner's boat sitting out there. When we have problems then, we have people come and leave food and goodies and nasty things on the boat. That upsets us, okay? When our boat's not on the dock, we really don't care if somebody comes down and uses it. Now, if you gave me an option for privatizing or not, I would privatize. I would ask people to stay off when I have my boat there. You're talking about a $25,000 dock and a $25,000 boat, you know, and that's not fair.
Thank you. I've been out there I've had a boat and a dock out there for 24 years. And I've had the same as everyone's saying, but that just kind of goes with the territory. And I agree with Commissioner Crowfoot that we knew that when we got the approval from Del Snelling that you could put it on there, that it's going to be used when you're not on it. And so I don't mind it being private, but I'm one of those that I agree with Commissioner Gehring. It's on public land, and you're gonna privatize something on public land. That's gonna be up to you all to do, but as an owner out there, I do not oppose anyone coming on my dock.
Well, I think what I would like to have clarification on, if our boat or pontoon is parked at the dock, then in my humble opinion, that is considered in use by owner. If there's no boats or no pontoons or anything at the dock, then yes. You know, I have no issue with, again, people using our dock, but I would want them to be respectful of it and not light bonfires and leave dead fish and guts and bait. I mean, it's those type of things. And again, you know, when you spend $20,000-$30,000 on a dock and $20,000 some plus dollars on a boat, and you have people in the boat throwing dirty diapers in, that type of stuff. I mean, it's, you know, it just is difficult.
The next one more question would be liability.
Yes.
So, I mean, obviously, we carry insurance on our dock. At this point, we've had to for the last, I don't know how many years. And in answer to Mr. Crowfoot's response, you know, when we put our original dock in there were only like 15 people that lived out at the lakefront. 38 years ago, Marion County Lake looked a whole lot different than it does right now.
Yeah, a lot different.
So it's used a lot differently. But
Say-
if somebody falls off my dock and hits their head on something or slips on the goose poop or whatever it is on the dock and goes flying, who is really liable? It's on public water, right?
I'm gonna turn
It's
that
my
one
dock,
to our counselor.
so who's liable?
I know who gets sued.
Yeah,
Everybody.
everyone. It's gonna be a situation where they'll make it a big party in terms of all of us being sued. Are you completely exempt and indemnified? No, not at all. You know, if you go to your carrier and say, hey, I've got this dock, many of them that have been around for a while will immediately roll their eyes because it's a challenge. And they will tell you gotta carry insurance, because you are going to potentially be held liable. And if you're not liable, at least you're going to be embroiled in the action and have to get out of it, and you're gonna expend a bunch of money to do so.
So no signage in the world would help that.
No, it's, what it does, it's kind of a conditioned precedent to being able to assert anything. Is it a perfect methodology? Not at all, I would tell you that. But if you don't have anything, my first question generally in those instances, did you put up anything? Because I've had cases I've had to litigate involving different governmental entities where it came down to, did you have a no trespassing sign up? Because if you didn't, and a reasonable person could assume, well, you had your garage door up and you've got an open area all the way from the street into it, and you're working in there and it looks like you're conducting some home business or something, in a private storage area. It wasn't trespassing. I don't agree with that ruling, but I've had that happen.
You can't put a no trespassing sign. So my dock in use by owner is the best I can do.
And we've had a sign put up at times and was told we had to take it down.
I wonder if the county should come up with some sort of
Yes.
signage that we could put up and then.
Posting at least notice of what this is and where it can be found, because now everything is available. They can take their phone and look it up. Not that they will. I understand that. I'm just trying to give you at least some minimum parameters that you can establish. The other issue is the definition of use. Exactly what you're saying. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and park some boat I don't really care about if they throw stuff in it, but I'm gonna tie it up and say it's always in use. That's gonna be a problem too. So these are always a headache. I won't deny that at all. And do we have a perfect answer? No, not unless we bright line it and say, nope, they're absolutely private now, so those property owners can do what they want. And it is, that's difficult from what Commissioner Gearing was saying. When this was first done, they're private property on a public waterway, water area, that we've allowed to be privatized to the extent that you have first choice or you have first right. That's tough, but I do believe we can privatize them, yes.
Some of the easier ones, I mean, it's not quite easier, it's still on public water, but there's some that are on the back cove.
Yes.
Where the house lot, it's
Goes all the way
contingent,
down,
their
yeah.
property goes all the way down to the lot.
I looked up
That's
a few of those.
That's a different scenario altogether.
Yeah, and the property owner, in looking at their deed and also any kind of a map, will see that it goes the water line, wherever the heck that is, or at least a measured distance into it. That element of it is much more private than some of the other properties that were deeded in a very different way with what amounts to a public right-of-way or easement that extends beyond the water line into what you would normally consider property you take care of. That's the starting point. The private property owner can make that determination as to how far do I even have a right to talk about things. But it still doesn't deal with that dock because it extends into the water. And every time it extends a certain distance, you're gonna be into what amounts to a public waterway.
My own personal thing is that I found out signage does not mean anything. If they wanna do damage, just last week, I had work done on my dock, and I put caution tape across so nobody'd go on. First time I went down there, it was just broken. Second time, my wife walked by, and there was two fishermen that had ducked under it and started fishing. And then the next day I went down there and the caution tape was completely gone. So any kind of signage does not work.
Sometimes the signage
Unless you
draws
have-
in the truck.
Yes, it actually does.
Yeah.
I think if you allowed a voluntary privatization, at least that way you could develop a map and say, oh, here's the ones that are open, here's the ones that aren't, stay off of them.
Actually, I kind of like Isaac's idea too, tying in with Commissioner Gehring's point about public. If you put a fee with that, you know, the ones that voluntarily want to, but then
Right.
a fee, and then we use that money to build some public docks to take some of the pressure off.
You have to use that money for enforcement.
Well, that's
That's true. Have to hire another guy on the weekends to enforce it.
It'll at least help take some of the pressure off. But I do like your proposal. Okay, there was.
Thank you. It used to be that we had to go in every year to register our dock. And that would give Isaac an idea, the way you're going with this, an idea who does want to be private, who doesn't want to be private. And he'll have a list that way.
I was doing, how many of the dock owners would go private if you had the opportunity? That's, because you've invested greatly. How many would leave them public? Yeah. That's what I see of the wide range.
I think though that, I mean, I would hope that the cost of renting the space would be reasonable and not unreasonable. Because again, I mean, we pay a lot of money to live out at the lake in taxes and upkeep and
Understood.
It would be
It has to be a reasonable fee. And again, everybody's definition of reasonable is different. But again, it comes back to your comment was, it is public waters.
Yeah, I mean.
And then there, you know, if there would be a huge value if you knew your dock was private. And you could protect it, fence it off.
Without the rest of the taxpayers in Marion County as a whole. Yeah, the taxes at the lake are, I hate to say it, but they're cheap right now compared to what they would be if you didn't have the rest of the county pulling in money to pay for that lake. So.
they don't feel very cheap.
No, I get it. But I'm just saying, as a whole, the whole county budget, Park and Lake is part of the county budget. It gets fed from the whole county, so we gotta make sure we.
We're not telling people they can't use the lake. We're just saying, you know, don't mess up my boat on the dock.
Right. And that is totally understandable. You're spending money on the dock. I get where you're coming from, but it's a double-sided coin.
Yeah, they shouldn't be on the boat.
Another process of natural selection might be that fee. If it's hopefully reasonable, and that's in the eyes of the beholder. But some people are like, I don't want to pay that much to keep it private. I'll let people walk on it and use it if they want. And others are like, no, that privacy is worth something to me and I'm willing to pay that. We have to determine somehow, with whatever wisdom that takes, what that fee would be, so that, you know, those who are thinking, it's worth a lot to me not to have to ever go to my boat and have to clean it up again and all of that sort of thing. So that might be a good way to at least get an idea of who's willing to pay it and who isn't.
Why wouldn't you set something up with, like, a public person could just go rent the dock for the weekend? Have some kind of reservation like you do with a campsite for people who want to.
Airbnb.
Open, basically.
Yeah.
But you use that money, and then you can go build some other docks. And if said individual has a dock and they wanna get a hold of her, it's the same price as the other docks, and they can say, hey, I'm gonna rent that. Cause the other part of that is now you have accountability of the person who's renting the dock. And that person has to be accountable for that dock for the day.
In order for them to have the ability to do that rent, though, we're gonna have to do the predicate condition of privatizing them to the extent now you have something you can do. You can rent it out. I mean, because you have that right. Right now, they don't. So, public at large, anybody can go, and you guys don't get to restrict. Oh, well, we'll let you, but not you. You don't get to do that.
But that might be a little bit of an answer to your problem.
It's another option.
The other thing I want to throw out here while we're here is, and I've heard it tossed around about the patrols and everything else. We have a reservoir patrol we're paid a contract on. We've been doing it for years. Tina knows about our reservoir patrol. We don't have that problem out there.
It's because we have somebody dedicated out there during the hot time of the summer when people are out there. And their job is not to go cruise on 56 highway and check for speeders. Their job isn't to go answer calls somewhere else. Their job is that area. They would cruise that County Lakeshore, those houses. They'd be dedicated to that place, and we do it at the reservoir. I think it starts on Memorial Weekend, somewhere around there, and ends here in September. And that person, it's two people, are part-timers. They go through that area, and that's all they do. And there's certain times, we don't have them out there 24/7, but they're out there during the busy times of what the government has indicated as the busy times for that lake. So that's something to think about. I'm not saying we'll do it, I'm just saying food for thought. Because they do have a right to, I mean, you have a larger congregation of people in one area, which draws outside public to that area, and they do have a right to have a little bit more patrol there.
How much does that cost?
A lot. It really does. I would have to go down. I think the reservoir patrol,
Our contract is like 47,000, I think, somewhere around that
for that year.
for a year.
And that includes the fuel, the vehicle, everything, the hours.
I got a question.
Yes.
What about the guy that's out there cruising around the reservoir? I've seen him cruising, and then he's basically sitting out at the gate. That would give, instead of spending that time sitting at the gate, just sitting there, why not cruise the county lake then?
Yeah, adding fuel into it.
We have I guess we also have a contract with the federal government that's what those folks are
What
designated.
they're paid to do is stay there, but
It has to be a separate contract.
Okay, well, can that be done?
Again, then how do we fund it?
A budget.
Well, it always falls back on the taxpayer.
That's what she
said. Yeah, be careful.
Well, I think it just has, it comes back to, we have to adjust to the culture that we're living in. It's far different than it was 40 years ago. There's not a lot of personal responsibility, and so it falls back on us. What's the best plan that we can come up with to protect the dock owners that are struggling?
Gonna have to arrest a few people, maybe an example.
Well, if they light a fire on a dock, they have their own camera, they ought to be.
There's, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that have a lot of different opinions, and no matter what you do, it's gonna make some people happy. It's gonna make a lot of people mad. I mean,
but if you opened it up to a voluntary privatization,
yeah, right.
Those ones that don't agree with it, leave it the way it is.
Right. Well, and I meant on the flip side of it, because there's a lot of people that come out from Marion County, from Hillsborough and wherever, that do not own a dock, and they like to fish here, they like to fish there,
And I agree, we probably need more public dock.
Because, I don't know. I don't know what the best solution is, but it's definitely an issue.
Privatize it, it's gonna create a whole nother level. I mean, I'm gonna get lit up about why do I pay taxes for a lake I can't use?
Right.
Well, that comes back to, then we have to figure out a way to provide more public space.
Right. Yep. And again, I come back to the proposal, and where Commissioner Becker is going, is give dock owners the opportunity or option. Because what I'm hearing, it's not gonna be all.
I don't think it would be all, no.
Some of that'll have to do where that fee comes, because there's gonna be a breaking point on the fee.
Yeah, right.
So I got a question. Do the people come from the road or from the water? Use your dock.
Both the road and water. both.
Road mostly.
So if you close off the road, that would take
No.
care of a lot of problems.
Well, you can't close off the road.
The path to the
walkway. If you close off the walkway.
walk-in people.
Yeah,
Not the
if you'd allow us to put a
Not the
lock
swimming
on it,
That's where if it'd be privatized, then you could.
not necessarily.
Well, they'll see.
It'd be
It's like a-
unlocked.
You jump the fence, yeah.
It's like a sign.
Yeah.
At least then you would have more, how you must say, authority,
More grounds to make
grounds, yes. You can at least take more steps to.
You have an immediate trespassing event.
Right, there you go, thank you.
The thing to think about is it's no different than Kansas Wildlife and Parks. They have you post the purple around the property. That gives the law enforcement the authority to do what they need to do without the owner being present. So signage is extremely important. If you decide to privatize, you're gonna have to sign it, because that way, on a Saturday afternoon, if you're seeing your family in Timbuktu and we can't get a hold of you, if you don't have signage, I have no teeth. So it has to be signed.
And a matter of if you have other family members or you're inviting some friends over to the dock and you're not there.
You'd have to come up with a minimum, what the minimum signage would be to privatize.
And a standardized.
And we could, that's what we could do.
Tell me this, if I leave today and go home and put a gate on my dock and lock it, am I breaking the law?
If we just put a gate on it, no lock. If the walkway has a gate.
Someone can walk up to it, open it, and walk onto the dock.
If,
That I don't necessarily consider that to be.
So there are actually multiple docks out there that
Yes,
have.
there are.
Because that's a
there's-
safety issue.
Yeah, I honestly like the fact that a lot of them have gates on them, because there are some of
and
those
some
that,
of them are locked.
there's none locked that I know of.
Yeah, the locking takes you into another realm.
But they do, I mean, there are gates
Yeah.
up there, which safety hazard wise, I like. I mean, instead of just being open, because there are some of them that those staircases down to the docks are
Kind of dangerous.
pretty steep, yeah.
We minimally have trouble when the boat's on the water and we put the sign that says dock and used by owner. We rarely have anybody
Yeah.
down
Well,
there
and you-
acting crazy.
And that's a whole, right, that's a whole conversation in itself, which we've talked about too, is when, according to our rules, it says if it is in use, well, what is the definition of
In use.
Because it doesn't clarify, and so, yeah, and.
Been an issue for you.
That's another one that interestingly enough, I was talking with one of the other lake individuals about. They said, well, the slick way to do it would seem to be, we were discussing alternatives, put those gates up and then when gate closed, in use. At that point, you kind of replaced your lock with that.
Other comments?
I'm ready to take action.
You ready to have action?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd make a motion that we allow privatization of docks made available to all dock owners based on minimum signage to be determined by legal counsel, with an annual fee for that privatization to be determined.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second to the motion?
Talking about making quick knee-jerk reactions here, this is not good. I mean.
There's lots of
I
gaps.
don't think it's a knee jerk. We've been talking about this for 10 years.
Well, I mean,
Multiple
it's-
years.
I understand there's problems, we know that. What Jeff said a while ago is, how much do we want this man running around? We've had that problem before where we get into labor time and stuff like that, so if you had an officer out there, maybe running around, maybe try that, I don't know, it's just one of them deals, but.
Well, we're gonna have to add budget to the county sheriff to do that.
I'm not denying that, I'm just saying that if we're gonna make a decision, that's,
A year that we want revenue neutral?
there's,
Yeah, there's no extra money.
so.
Can't keep kicking the can down the
I
road.
mean, I believe it's a viable option. And we've been talking about it a long time. And like I said, some of the dock owners aren't gonna sign up.
Right.
So to say that there isn't a place for anybody to fish would be a misstatement.
But you get to 100% dock owners, 84 of them says that they're private. then-
Well, and on top of that, we need to start determining what we can do as far as starting to add a step at a time,
Yeah.
another public dock. Say, in the next year, we're gonna add another public dock, and maybe over the next 3 years, we add 2 public docks.
Well, and I would like to say, I mean, I think we're getting so focused on the docks, there is ground that they can stand on. I mean, it's not like they have to be on a dock. They can go to the bank and fish off the bank. Is it as convenient? No. Is it available to them? Yes. Is it public available to them? Yes. So there are other options for folks who choose to fish.
They're not allowed to fish the water that the dock is on.
Pardon?
They're not allowed to fish the water that the dock is on. So they're actually being prohibited.
Oh, for the love
They're not being prohibited. We paid for that piece of.
Okay, let's bring it back. We've got a motion on the table. Is there a second? I'll ask one more time. If there's not a second, the motion dies. Is there a second? No second, motion dies. I would like to make an alternate motion, and that be that Isaac and Tina and Brad work together to develop a proposal incorporating the factors of Commissioner Becker's motion, and bring it back to us. Well, the season's pretty much.
I got this busy weekend here, it's not over.
You wouldn't be able to get it done this week.
Labor Day's gonna be gone. Before we get something, it's October.
This is a December project.
It's
Probably you'd be talking about a 2025 start date.
Well, yeah, have something in place we can work on, but work together, work with the sheriff, come up with a plan.
Give us a report back date, so I put some.
That's what I'm trying to,
November 1st.
about October.
anytime after October 5th would be ideal.
November 1st.
Mid-October.
Works. What do you guys say?
There's a motion, mid-October.
Since my motion failed, I'll second yours.
Can it be a direction instead of a motion? Because you're giving them.
It could be, but I just as soon make it a motion.
Consensus and direction, but either way is fine.
I'm making it a motion. Have a second. To get a proposal, and then we work on the process, because then after we have the proposal, we have to work through it. Before we implement, that way when we implement it, we have all the details worked out. Okay, other discussion, questions?
October 14th or 21st meeting.
I'm not a boater, but does people get out on that brings their boats that don't have docks, do they get out on the water and then run up and use docks that's there quite often?
Yes.
I know, I mean, we got the ones over at the lake office and stuff, but like we don't have none out in the middle of coves or anything like that. Would that be, if we was to put docks in, would that be something that we need to think about? I mean, I'm just thinking people that comes up to boat.
Yeah, I mean, people that don't have docks, so the way that works is technically they can use the public docks, but they cannot take their boat out there, tie their boat up to one of the existing private docks if they are not present. But if they are present there using their boat, they are allowed to use those other docks. Yeah, they can't tie it up, like someone can't go use their dock, tie their boat up to their dock and then go somewhere else, and leave it there. But if they're out there, which it happens all the time, to your guys' dock specifically, I mean, there's a family that comes out with a boat that does not own a dock. They'll go and sit on their dock and boat off of their dock all day. Yeah, it does happen.
And damage.
Yeah, it does happen.
That answer the question?
Yeah.
Any other questions or discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Okay, motion carried 4 in favor, Commissioner Gehring opposed. The wheels turn slow.
38 years.
But we've talked about it since I've been on, I'm sure probably since Randy's been on.
Long time, since I've been on.
Hopefully I think Isaac has a very good proposal. I think we can hammer something out that we can do it globally, make it work.
Tina will come up with something.
There we go. All right, any other closing comments? If not, thank you for those that were interested in the docks, and we'll move into roads. It's Lake Day.
Okay, you guys want me here for road maintenance?
I figured once they
I do.
gone.
Middle of it.
Oh.
I got it.
Thank you, Isaac.
Yes.
Welcome back, Greg.
Yeah, so I guess, and I appreciate being on the agenda here.
Yes.
You know, in the past, I've sent you numerous
Right.
pieces of information.
Yes.
Okay, and then this past week, I sent you some additional information that basically more geared to the plats.
Right.
I think that might have been the very last thing that
Yeah.
I hadn't covered yet.
Right.
And looking through our plats and going through the plats on each one of those that had been signed off, approved, and in the Register of Deeds, it does say the streets and alleys are hereby dedicated to public use. Okay, so they identify it as public roads, basically. Not private roads, public roads, which the public road is a county road.
Absolutely.
He says no. But they, what I guess I'm basing this on is on the Wilson Lake Estates. Wilson Lake Estates had a case, I guess, with Lincoln County Commissioners, where they had taken their information to the Attorney General as well for an opinion. And it's kind of like this, is where Lincoln County was telling the Wilson Lake Estate people that they were gonna have to be responsible for their roads there, and Wilson Lake Estate said no, that because of the plats and being approved, then it should be the county that's responsible in that case. According to information that I sent you guys, and based on the Attorney General's opinion, I think it was 91-140, said that Attorney General's opinion that when the plat of Wilson Lake Estates was accepted by Lincoln County Commissioners and filed in the Register of Deeds office, this was sufficient evidence to consider these roads declared to be public roads as set out by the Kansas statute 68-124. Okay, so with all our plats being signed, that information as far as the streets being dedicated to public use, it says once there's, this is from Kansas statute 68-102, it says once there's a recordation of the reviews report, survey, and plat in the Register of Deeds office, then a county road has been established. Kansas statute 1929-18C says the county was to approve all plats submitted as being in conformance with the provisions of subdivision regulations before such could be filed of record within the county Register of Deeds office, based upon statute 68-102 and Attorney General's 91-140. Once there is recordation of the report, survey, and plat in the Register of Deeds office, then the road has been established. Once a survey and plat of the subdivision are recorded in the deeds office, those roads become county roads pursuant to Kansas statute 68-102. So I guess, and I got others, but I'm not gonna waste the time of, I mean, you guys have read it. I guess we're here to see what you guys, you know, what are you going to do, or what's your reply or response to what we've presented?
So in legal matters, we rely on our counselor advice.
Greg, when was Wilson Lake built?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I mean, it's a new lake, isn't it? Last 50, 60 years.
Wilson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was platted out correctly probably when they built it.
I can't answer that.
I mean, each of the lots would be uniform probably. But that's
Good. Can't answer
that's
that.
Marion's biggest problem. There's nothing uniform at the lake.
But everything was platted out and approved and
In
put in the Register of
in the
Deeds.
20s and 30s.
No, it's all the way through, all the way up to Wilden Edition.
Yeah.
Everything was platted out, yes, and recorded.
Wilden been the last one.
I think Wilden's been the last one.
but it's outside the lake.
We'll turn it over to the counselor for his comments.
Mr. White and I have a disagreement about what a county road is, and I understand and I appreciate everything that he's provided. And every reference, and it is applicable, everything from 68-116 to 68-124 is generally applicable. However, the well-stated law in this state is if you have specific statutory authority on a particular topic, that takes precedence over the general. 68-100s are the general. If you go a little further and look at 68-515B through 68-590, all of what you've just said is interpreted and changed. County roads are those that are a minimum of 60 feet wide. There's nothing in there, and I've gone through every one of them and all the case law on it, that preserves a grandfathering. As a matter of fact, it specifically talks about in a county unit system that we have, that you have major collectors, county minor collectors, and local service roads. None of these have been designated by the county at any time in all 16 of those plats as county major collectors or county minor collectors. I drove out there and I've messed around for months, as you were complaining about, and you're absolutely right, it has taken me a long time, and I still don't know because I didn't take a tape measure. But what I was looking for were any of them that had been developed as 60-foot right-of-ways, and I found maybe 2 out there. Everything else is less. And the county roads in the 20s, 30s, and 40s ranged anywhere from 30 to 44 feet.
That is correct.
Now they go all the way up to 66 feet. If you look at all those plats, in some ways they are inadequate, but they're not required under Chapter 19 to necessarily specify. We can approve plats based on certain minimum standards, but those standards don't include, and we're going to set up that these are all county roads now automatically, because the one thing that is absolute is there's a 60-foot minimum width in the one you talk about, 68-116. And it specifically talks about throughout the entire code from there on, if you reference each time and go back, that is the requirement for a county road. Now, I'm also going to say you've submitted it to the Attorney General's office, and I've had lengthy conversations with them, and I am happy to let them tell me I'm wrong. You know, I don't want to say, Greg, that you aren't right to the extent that they couldn't say, you know what, we don't care. We think that anything that's been platted must be a county road. If so, God help them, I guess, with all the counties that are going to come in and say, you mean to tell me? Like I was on one this weekend in the northwest part of Sedgwick County, outside of Wichita, off 13th Street. There are a number of these, they look like hotels, houses out there, and they've got roads that are very similar in nature to what we're talking about. They're feeders. They let you get to your house, but that's not something that people drive to get from there to Bel Air or anywhere else on. They're not majors, they're not minors, they're a service road. And there's not one of them that I found in checking this morning that Sedgwick County agrees to take care of. So there's a number of places, and we can debate this all day long and go point counterpoint. I don't mean to do that.
Well, we could, because I've got a state statute 68-124 that says even if roads were not established correctly, the roads that are being traveled upon by the public thus are public roads.
Again, and then you can take that.
And then the county road laws of Kansas say a public road is a county road and to be maintained by the county.
Potentially, yes. If you use the general element, if you don't look at the modifications made in Article 5 of Chapter 68. The other thing that the counties can do, if all else fails, is they can declare the minimum maintenance. I have one around several sections of ground I own in Marion County, and nobody touches them. Nobody. And can they do that? Yes. Is that fair? Probably not, because you guys pay a lot of taxes too. I'm not looking to turn this into something adversarial. I'm looking at it from the perspective, I get asked the question, do we absolutely have to? So far, I can't say yes. And I appreciate everything that you've done by way of research, and I've gone through all of it, including that most recent one, and tied those all in and done the analysis on them, and then started checking each and every one of those plats. And I, quite frankly, am still not completely done in terms of all of those plats, other than to find that there's some deficiencies in some of them that probably ought to be addressed that weren't at the time that they were done. But that's beside the point at the moment. So I'm perfectly happy to see what the AG tells us. And if you're right, you're right. I mean, I'm not at a point in life where I think it's infallible, but I can't say today that I'm convinced by what you've presented that these are county roads requiring that the county take care of them. in that regard. They can choose to do so, or they can reach an agreement with the improvement district or anyone else and say, we'll do this at a certain standard and make it contractual. They absolutely can. And I think that's worth the time to discuss as well. I don't know what the expectation is here in the broadest scheme of things. Look, we just want rock put on these 3 times a year, or we want them bladed a certain number of times a year, or whatever. And that's also certainly something that's well worth discussing, because you guys are citizens of the county.
It was basically simple maintenance is all that we were wanting.
Yeah.
And I know on June 3rd, when
What's simple maintenance?
rock and take care of all the washout areas. The problem, and I mentioned this back on June 3rd, the problem with putting some rock down on some of those places is
Washes back
you
out.
get a heavy rain, it's just gonna wash out again. That's why I think Mr. Becker asked me what my opinion would be on that, and I mentioned the millings, about putting the millings on the roads and like in a hot sun and have it rolled in.
Are they severe washouts, or are they that big, or?
They're
It's like,
they're
it's
wide,
like
thick, and deep.
four-wheel driving.
I mean, would riprap dumped in there and then rock put back on top, would that fix?
It's not deep enough.
Oh,
Some of them are.
Some of them are
Some
very
of them
deep.
Time put the riffraff, well,
yeah, so you're basically throwing some boulders in there wherever it tends to wash out, and then put rock back on top.
Pretty much, yeah,
But then it won't wash the boulders out.
but the problem is,
I don't
it
know.
might. It depends.
Isaac
on-
raised his hand back there, like.
Depends on how hard the rain comes and.
Well, I was gonna say, so I've listened to this and I've dealt with it before, and I will advise this to anybody that asks, is I would not put gravel on the roads. Cause what happens, and there's multiple spots out there, and like Greg is saying, there are some that are really, really bad. But on the flip side of that, what's happened is there have been some residents out there that have fixed their own roads. They put gravel down, spread it out, or had somebody come out and spread it out. Well, then it rains and that gravel goes down the hill. And the person that lives down at the bottom of that hill, they don't have a driveway anymore, they don't have a front yard anymore. It's just all the gravel that is washed down from their neighbor constantly putting it back up on the hill. And then you have that conflict at the same time. There's not drainage, there's no proper drainage. So I don't think gravel.
What's it take to get the 60-foot right away?
I was just gonna mention,
I'm asking really a rhetorical question, but I want it so that everybody hears it.
I don't think there's places you could.
throw down some
You'd be
houses.
taking property. You'd be taking people's property.
On Hillcrest, Jessica and I mean, we went together and combined resources and put rock down, and it wasn't gravel, it was rock. I mean, big rock. A little of it washed out, not nearly as bad, but it helped the base, because once it got packed in, it's more solid. There's still some ruts. We went back and filled it back in again. But again, that's at the cost of $300 or $400 for a truckload to do that. I mean, the water tower is right there. Those roads are being used for the water tower. And yet we're responsible to have to maintain the crazy thing.
Tower by
The road you mentioned, I'm talking about where the greenhouse is that was built right by the draw, right there. That gentleman or person, I don't know who we're talking about now, I used to know the name.
Jose.
Okay, but I mean, the best way they did it, they finally put cement down, they've put everything down, but yet it still washes some of that away even. I mean, that road is not, I mean, it's good now, I think, but.
He put blacktop in.
Blacktop too, just here lately.
A lot of water goes down there.
Yeah, I mean, that's some of the steep ones, but then the ones they're talking about too, that Isaac's talking about, up the top of the hill, and then it seems like, boy, it goes to the bottom. I mean, you're looking at some, and the millings did fine, but the reason why the millings did fine back when the
2002,
they was freshly ground, they was hot, they was pretty, they have a lot of, but you take the millings that's coming off of Highway 50 over there, I've got some on my property, and
They don't stick.
they don't stick, they don't have no glue, they just, so they're a mess to, I think they'd be a mess out there on that road as much as it's used. But like somebody said, mill them in or roll them in too.
I was gonna say, could we roll them in?
I don't know whether, I don't know what it
Could there be like a layer of oil, put the millings and then roll it in and not heat it in?
might help.
Getting close to a waterway and then talk about dumping oil, I don't think we wanna even get close to that topic.
That's Luther.
That's another thing.
That's why I've referred to as just the millings at 100-degree temperature and roll it in, that the heat would put it together.
I've got oil wells, we stay away from waterways.
No matter what, it's gonna go to the water there.
Yeah.
It's close.
And I know, Mr. G, you talked about minimum roads and things like that, and again, I'm just referring to information that I have here where they talk about a road is considered open when it's unobstructed, when it's being traveled however minimally, and when it's available for public use. And then since these roads are being used and traveled upon, then they are deemed to be open roads.
No problem with any of that. Open roads are different than a county road.
But the county's always been telling us that they are private roads, and they are actually public roads based upon the plats and how they've been signed and put in the register of deeds.
And I won't argue that, that may be
To me,
semantics.
the public road is a county road.
Yeah, and it is not. That's the one thing.
That's where we'll differ.
And I understand that. And it may be that you're right on some of them, because if they are, if someone said, well, the county's miscategorized those, they should have at least called them a minor collector or a major collector. Then there's a way for that to necessarily put some obligation on the county. But the primary condition precedent is that they're 60-foot wide. That has not changed in a long time. And the county has
But
the,
again, I stated there too, where
Their grandfather.
even if roads were not established correctly, roads are being traveled upon by the public, thus they are public roads.
again,
So, again,
public road.
public. To me,
Not county.
public road is county road.
Yeah, it's not.
That's not.
And it may, like I said, I'm happy if the AG comes in and says, hey, public road means county road. But I have found nothing to that effect, and there's nothing in the statutory scheme. And everything that changed in Article 5 specifies, no, the county board has the ability at any time to change the width requirement. I mean, in other words, if they want to reduce it, they can, they don't have to. And there's nothing in any of those sections that you will find that codifies grandfathering, nothing. So, you know,
Once they've maintained on the roads, then they've accepted the road.
well, yeah, I mean, you can say that if they've maintained that there's a,
They've come out and maintained the roads multiple times, so
but does that constitute a waiver? Not necessarily, no.
Even when they put the millings down in 2002.
You can make the argument. Like I said, I won't say you can't. I'm just saying that there's no smoking gun here that says, oh, you're absolutely right. All of these are county roads. I haven't found that. And I've spent a lot of time on that already. And again, if that's the case, but I have to look at it from the perspective of what's the absolute minimum standard. And what I'm finding so far does not make a public road or one that is a service road and is used by, I don't know, a rural water district or some other entity that services a water tower, or heck, Evergy or someone else that comes out for essential functions to provide services to all of you out there, makes it a county road. Maybe public in nature, because that's what you intended when the plat was filed. But that was not necessary. We have several, we went through this a number of months ago, where some of the property owners along one said, hey, we want this to be a county road. Well, it was specified in that one, which it should really be done anymore. We won't accept this at all for any reason, for any purpose, and you continue to maintain it privately and as a private road until you make it 60-foot wide. And I'll admit, I went through all those plats just like I assume you have, and there's no specification.
Right here.
Yeah. And so do I. So yeah.
Well, I know, I told you the last time I was here that I put in a request at the Attorney General's office.
I know, and I've had long conversations with him since.
And my reply, or I got a reply back from them here just this past week that said that they will give me an answer the 1st of September, so.
So they committed to an early, they wouldn't do that for me.
They told me that it would be the 1st of September they'll give me an answer.
Maybe their timeline will be better than ours. Estimate, we said 3 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
That was another.
So I guess I'm asking the county commission, what's your take on this then?
Mike, I'm gonna guess the consensus is, and tell me if I'm wrong, we're gonna wait for the Attorney General. Am I wrong?
in the past, we've always dumped some rock out there.
There's rock available.
Where is the
Be
rock
available.
available at?
There's asphalt millings at the entrance of the lake right now.
And that's well and good, but if we don't have any access to get to it, I mean, I don't have a backhoe for the love of God, you know, I don't have any way to do that. So it can sit there until doomsday, it's not gonna help me. Sorry, didn't mean to say it quite that.
No, I mean, do understand that.
Well, my last point here is from a court ruling, again, this is back in 2000, State of Kansas versus Dynas. Says the duty of the Board of County Commissioners of each county to maintain its county roads as originally laid out or officially altered. By statute, the county engineer is in charge with maintaining the county roads. The county has no authority to informally designate others to maintain county roads. So I guess in my interpretation of public road as a county road, I would say then, in that regard, then it's the county's responsibility to maintain it and not the private individuals that are out there.
Any other comments?
No, I'm thinking of it in a different aspect, like a town shrinks in size and it becomes an unincorporated town. Wouldn't mark all those alleys as county roads. You would make the main thoroughway through the town would switch from city to county, but the rest of the streets wouldn't automatically become county. So I'm just thinking of it, more than just a lake, just thinking of what Pandora's box do you open by doing something.
Any other?
What authority does the county have if they decided to do something at some time to, let's say, we know that we think that blacktop asphalt, as we was talking about, that one over there, was to be laid down, do we have the ability to bill the adjoining landowners?
Benefit districts are established. And it's a lineal footage of property that you own along a roadway, you get assessed.
But then the front people pay for it, and if somebody's back on Rock Road back in there, or Hill Road, or somewhere in there that you don't do, they're not gonna get no extra tax, are they?
Correct. You can try to do the benefit district and define it as other than those touching that particular roadway. That's legally permissible as well. You know, if they are serviced by it, like if you have a main arterial that comes into a development area or a platted area, and it's the only way you can get into all of the properties, then yeah, it becomes sufficiently usable that you can assess it against all of them.
You are the improvement district, right?
Yes.
What rights do you have to take over and make some decisions if some roads was to be done or something like that? Do you have that right? I don't know, Greg, I'm just asking.
I don't have that right.
Improvement district, not you, but I'm the improvement district. Are they allowed that right to do that?
There's sewer and water.
As far as the board right,
Yeah, the board's right.
the board has that right, yes.
But what about, it's got, like he said, sewer and water, but what about roads?
Yes. We could also put in a dog leash ordinance too. I mean, there's a whole list of things we can do.
That's what I'm just asking that what's there, what can be done, with taxi purposes for blacktop. I think everybody would like that probably. I hope that would stay, but I'm just.
If you did something like that though, you'd have to build the road to specs, correct?
Not if they did.
They did it.
Not if they did it.
Urban district.
Well, yeah, that's right.
Just a suggestion.
The improvement district, that's another taxing entity, correct?
Yes. So if you guys did it, all of your residents of your improvement district would be taxed, right?
We're already taxed.
Well, I understand that. We are too. Everybody is.
That's right.
But we're trying to find a solution. That's all I'm saying.
But other roads in the county, you're not taxing everybody on other roads that you improve on, so.
Every county road, yeah.
Yeah, never mind, it's not gonna matter. I guess what I'm hearing is we're just gonna wait on the Attorney General's thing. And if it comes back in our favor, then you're willing to take care of it then.
Well, we'll respond at that time.
That's kind of what I thought. So I guess if it comes back in our favor and we get the wrong response, then our other option is to take it to court then. Okay. And I guess that's maybe where we'll end up. Okay.
All right.
Fair enough.
Okay, we'll see if they deliver on their early September.
I'm hoping.
The last call in for the AG is, we had was, talk to your county attorney. They just immediately punted, immediately.
They're so short-handed, it's.
Well, the gentleman who's in charge of it isn't back until September 3rd. His voicemail says that, so I'm shocked that they would get it back that quick, but maybe they will. Somebody else assigned to it. Think about that.
Oh, man. Can we get this to stop if we went out there and dumped 4-inch rock on there?
No.
Knowing that won't wash out. They might not be able to drive on it for 2 or 3 years, but it won't wash out.
I don't know,
so.
I've watched it since
water
1987, and it,
Yeah, the water will
You
make
check
them.
your ass out to
Make them tumble.
yeah.
Yeah, you seen
Yeah, I've
Water-
seen everything out
water
there.
under the hill.
Yeah, you're getting your. Oh, Chuck, thank you for your patience.
Hey, you're welcome.
We're only an hour and a half behind, I think, of where we had you scheduled on the agenda, so.
Good. Well, I'm here now.
That's right. All right, good. All right, let's talk about Peabody Ambulance.
No, you go ahead. You had your pen up.
I was just gonna give an update where Dave
Okay, go ahead.
Wheeler and I attended the Fourth Fire Board meeting Wednesday night of last week, and, quite a meeting. But we at least got it to where, out of all the, after a few things, we explained what we was really trying to do, just find out what their plan was, and if there was land available, if they was gonna use that land, or where they was at. I think we found out that they was nowhere near settling with a landowner, and so they sent me and the fire chief, Colton Glenn, to go the next day to talk to the landowner, and we did. Just ask him to give us a price, if it's for sale, if it's not for sale, let us know, whatever. We also found out a brief description of, they have sort of a plan, they didn't say it was all complete for a building, but they did want the building built together, and what they was telling us was ISO, and when I did ISO, a building was not in intentions. The equipment, the water lines, size water lines, and things like that was all used. How close to town, the things. But anyway, so we're looking. You know, the ISO could be looked at and see if we have to get somebody from the state to tell us what that does. But Colton and I had a good visit, and we told him we was interested in, even if a carport or something tie us together or something like that, that would be possible to do this. And we're not against the idea of building with them somewhere, but just so that we've got a separate piece of ground, entities and stuff like for or for sewer, water, electric, everything like that. So that's really where we stand at down there with the Fourth Fire Board. Colton and I did go the next morning. We talked to him. He's supposed to get back to us. He did not give us a date, whether it's for sale or or a price. So
Try to put my spin on that. As Randy said, we were just there to see if there's a way we can cooperate. My and Randy both, and our reception, what we've heard from the commission in the past is when we build an ambulance station that needs to be on county property in a county building. Fire department, fire district property, fire district building. But they were very adamant And it had to be under one roof because of, as Randy said, ISO. And ISO has nothing to do with ambulance service. Absolutely nothing about it being under the same.
That's all, fire protection.
Yes, exactly. And Chuck can explain all that, the specifics.
Well, I'm not an ISO expert, but I was fire service for almost 10 years, full-time career. ISO basically, nuts and bolts, it comes down to how much water supply you have, what kind of pressure you can pump it at, what kind of training you do, what kind of communications you have with your other firefighter, radio communications. There's a few other little caveats, little bullet points, but that's kind of basic nuts and bolts of it. It's all about what the fire prevention can do for that community and for the residents and for their personal property. Nothing that I'm aware of has to do with anything with ambulance.
So a lot of the other comments made were, well, El Dorado, the ambulance is housed with the fire. McPherson, the ambulance is housed with the fire. That's because they're one entity.
Right.
And in Marion County, maybe 20 years down the road, fire and ambulance will be. We don't know. But at this point, we're separate entities. And we had some pretty intense discussions in Hillsborough.
Same thing.
And the decision of the county was county property, county building. That way we keep the separation. We don't decide who pays how much for insurance. But long term, I think it's in everybody's interest we be located.
Close proximity
Within the span. Should something change down the road, but that doesn't mean you can't have a county-owned property right next to a fire district-owned property. And then if things change in 20 years, that you're ready to roll.
I don't know when it's gonna happen, maybe Hillsborough, I don't know how close they are yet, but that's the plan that we know of, is that they're planning on building on that corner. And that's why they put us back there where we're at, and they're gonna be on take the corner and that too, I think.
So following up on Commissioner Dahlke's comment is, the commission has put a high priority on getting a full-time ambulance in Peabody. We need to move. If we're gonna wait for the fire district, we're delaying that timeline, delaying the service to the people in Peabody. So what we came to at that point was find out on this property. And if that doesn't work, we have other options to look at. That's what I don't know if we'd like to go into executive to talk about some of the other options.
I think that if you are going to speak of specific locations and conversations with landowners, that you should go into executive session for a preliminary discussion of property acquisition.
I think we've been general enough.
I think
at this point,
for right now, as far as that, like I said, I've been actively looking for property at all different locations. There's other landowners that's willing to sell some property for an ambulance station. But at this time, we're really dealing with the Fourth Fire Board and trying to get their answer first for them, because they've supported us for a lot of years to house our ambulance in, so.
Let's go in executive for 15 minutes so the other commissioners can see what other options are out there. I move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss preliminary acquisition of real estate, case 75-4319B. That is item 6, preliminary discussion acquisition of real estate with the commission. Chuck, Tina, Brad for 15 minutes, 2:40, 2:55.
Okay.
Second. Yeah, he has problems.
Second by Commissioner Gehring is.
No. Second by.
Mr. Dahlke, sorry. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. Carried to be back at 2:55.
Sleepy legs. Okay.
Thank you for distracted. Yes, 5-0.
A lot of.
Okay, that's on.
Out of executive session, no decisions made. Chuck, did you have anything else?
No, I just wanted to kind of get the ball rolling and see where we're at and get the discussion going forward to get a Peabody Station down there, get a full-time ambulance crew.
Our lady in charge over here had some great ideas that we need to let everybody know what we're doing.
All right, I just think it's good to be clear that the commission is committed to that. That's a goal of the commission, is to put full-time service there, because it makes sense for the county, and that you have put money in the budget, you're looking to move forward. I think that's important for you to let people know that, so.
Thank you guys very much. I mean, as soon as we find out, the next thing I would suggest is if we find out, see if we can call for a meeting between the board, have the board, Fourth Fire Board come up here if it's for sale and have them meet with us or something to that effect. And I want to talk to the president of the Fourth Fire Board and see if that's all accessible, and if it comes for sale.
Right.
So, see how they feel. Or maybe a letter, I don't know, maybe how else we can handle that, Brad?
You could do it several different ways, yeah, you could go ahead and make that kind of a proposal. Just ask them for information or their input.
Okay.
Is the board ready to make any, do any other steps as far as, is it too early to put together a building committee or somebody to work on this, or do you wanna just do it as a whole commission, or what, or how do you wanna, is there anything to be done right now?
Chuck's the driver. We need your expertise in putting together the plan. Do you start on a building before you have a location?
Sometimes the building size dictates the lot size.
Yes.
It's, well, it's a pre-engineered metal building.
How you turn it,
You go with a pre-engineered metal building, so it fits anywhere. It needs to be what you want it to be. Just
you know, how many bays you want, how many bedrooms.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm
gonna guess he's got a
Got to figure it out. Just need the guidance.
Yeah.
I need the code navigator.
Chuck, I'm gonna give you the name of a company from Oklahoma that's done about 4 of these. I won't do it right now, I'll just get you all the information. Company out of Oklahoma that's built 4 of these for ambulance departments and a fire department in the last year.
Oh,
And he is just so much cheaper than everybody else around in Kansas, nobody can touch it.
cool.
Includes, it's turnkey to the extent of structure, insulation, and concrete. The rest of it, your jobbers, everybody's coming in, electrical, plumbing, all that you do, but he's puts these up. And I've got one other city where one of the people is a general contractor, and that's all they do is put those buildings up. And he says, I can't just get the materials for what that guy puts it up for. Don't know how they do it, but they're so specialized. They're out of Oklahoma. But anyway, let me forget to give you that.
Is there a building already up somewhere that they could go?
Yes.
So they can see?
Yes. Yeah, I can give you, the various cities where they put them up.
Oh, appreciate it.
Could you include me?
Yep, I will.
and me.
I always would do that.
And me. So I want to.
Okay, sure.
So to answer your question, I'm gonna ask Chuck to work with Tina, and I guess for when we can't really get too far into the building till we have property, but I would guess I'd ask for Randy Dalkey and myself to be on the building committee.
You could have the building and then you could have your minimum dimensions required.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess with the committee idea, we can work, since we've already started working together on locations, we can maybe continue to work together on locations and keep bringing information to the commission.
I think that's the important thing. You gotta have some place to build it, and it's gotta have enough space for a building. And if 100 by 100, and then we gotta know whether they're gonna go with us or not, or whether they want to split off or something.
And I guess that's why I'm gonna ask to continue that, since you and I already went to the fire district. I think it's good that we have 2 commissioners.
And do you want any kind of a letter from the commission to the Fourth Fire District just saying we are interested in pursuing, looking at options, and that our intention is to put a building in Peabody, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I hope to know this week whether this property is for sale, and then.
Hopefully we'll have information next week, the next meeting.
Okay. Well, I can try to come up with a draft, just a general, and just to state what the intentions of the board are and the desire to.
Do that, because I heard
Collaborate.
comments outside just after they were left outside, so.
Okay.
It needs to be.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you,
Have a
ladies.
good day, Chuck.
You too.
Anything I can help you with, let me know.
All right, Brad.
Well, I think today was primarily docks and roads, but A couple of other things. I had a conference call that went on for some time last week with the adjuster from American National on our bridge damage claim. And we reached agreement that there's not a question about there being, that we didn't have any contributory negligence to this and that they are liable. But she came to the same conclusion I have after attempting to get information that it may well be that we need to reach agreement on a third-party evaluator.
Right.
And that would probably, we would spend, well, she hasn't agreed that they would absorb all that cost. But I think that's where we're headed, if you guys are not objectionable to that.
We've gone this long.
Yeah, I know.
That's where it was gonna go.
She's at the same place where, I just wanna get it paid. I said, oh, not as much as we do.
Yes.
And I said, we went from a 13 to a 7, and I went through that whole list again, and I said, I don't know how to evaluate it. And what you're gonna say is the depreciable asset here. I mean, how much did it, was it worth less? I mean, our local engineer who does our bridge work, all they really do is evaluate, does it meet standard? And yes, it does. How long will it meet standard? Don't know that. So we don't know what the depreciable life beginning point is on that. So I need to get that answered for both of us so we can get a number to bring back to you.
Yeah, I think we're all on board with that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just gonna call her today then and tell her let's try and find somebody who can agree upon. There's several people I found in Wichita that can do that for us, and in the area.
As long as they're gonna absorb the cost.
So, I think at the last meeting, you mentioned that you wanted a new draft of the 30 to decide if you're gonna put that up for public review. Is that
Yep.
something you still wanna do today, Commissioner?
Yes. You just have time?
I gotta be in Wichita by 4:30. It's pushing me.
Can you give us another
Yep.
5-10 minutes?
I can.
I need your input on this, and I know we promised the public we would have a decision on the draft today.
And that was my.
I'll be right back in.
Okay.
Is this gonna be private or public? Public, isn't it?
Go ahead and take it.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
We'll get started reading.
Made a few final changes based upon the discussions that we had. And again, I didn't make certain ones that we at least talked about because to do them would create an even greater constraint. So I didn't do that. So I need to know if we're there, as far as you are concerned, or if there's still things that you think, nope, that absolutely has to be in there, then okay, I'll put it in. Tina, did you get one? I'm sorry. Neither of you did. Yep, there's plenty, I think. I have another one over here.
Brett, under item 6, where it says the county reserves the right to analyze and consider the impact of each permanent conservation easement. That's not giving us the right, though, to block one.
That's correct, and that's exactly what I was referring to earlier. I put it back in, then I took it back out, then I put it back in on these, and also, you'll note if you read through there, at one point I had a limitation on transfer. If it went private to government or government to private, our ability to review, and now we're getting into those two areas where I think it's potentially challengeable under the Constitution, and also the federal government would come in and say, oh no, not letting you guys dig into this at the county level. So I took them out. If you want them in, that's fine. I mean, if we want to use that as a discussion point, or you want to add that as what would the county residents like to see, we sure can. But I will then be sitting there saying, you understand that we may just buy ourselves a legal challenge from the US Attorney General's office, or even at the state level, although I don't think they would as readily as someone from the federal system would.
I know this transmission line has really heated up in the last week. They had the meetings last week in Barton and Pawnee County, and
if you would like those, I have all the articles that
well, I've read everything I can read, but that impact of eminent domain could be huge with these huge buffer areas that they've got. I don't quite understand though yet. They have separated Kansas into a north corridor and a south corridor. What kind of implication does that have? I didn't really get a good feel for that.
I don't also understand it in terms of how they bifurcated and what that means, because this line, if you recall, when I let everybody look at that colored map of it, really runs kind of in an easterly, westerly, you know, it makes that point at Larned and comes across. I don't understand the north-south element of that.
I don't know, but I mean, it's a government designation.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it finally came to the attention of our of our senators anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know how that's going. If that has any impact in our statement or resolution, excuse me. I mean, you do talk about the transmission lines.
Yes.
And
I made, again, this is about as basic as I can make it without committing the county to something that may be.
I just don't know. I don't know what we could add to that to give it any more clout.
You reach a bright line point of anything you add to it means we're regulating. And then Sharon is going to come in and say, I don't think I want to do that with planning and zoning.
The thing is, when we first started talking about that, the transmission lines were kind of on our mind, but not at the top.
Yeah. Now that's becoming a big deal for quite a distance, in different states.
Any other questions on the draft?
And like I said, if you don't want anything else in the draft, but you want things for discussion points, I can create those as well. Like if you want to, hey, do you want us to step further into this knowing that there's a risk that we might be challenged on any regulatory approach we take? Because you will, probably by somebody, even people within the county.
Has there been any case law come out of Nebraska yet because of?
Not yet. Nothing.
Like I was telling you, the conservation easements up there go to county commissions to be approved. And the way I understand, some of them have been denied.
Yeah. I subscribe to a governmental element of Westlaw and all of that kind of stuff. Like I have some I can provide you on transmission lines, but what they have done now clearly, because it is a hot button topic, is a fairly lengthy treatise on what it is, how they work, what the federal government can do, what you in a state have the ability statewide to do. But it didn't really get down to the county level yet. And then I looked at any case law because they monitor that as well. Nothing out of Nebraska yet.
So could we consider this, if we approve it, a living document to where
change it?
We could adjust it depending on which direction we're going here.
Very much like any other resolution you do, you can, adopt, amend, or rescind. That's up to you.
So I mean, I think it's a good starting point.
You wanna get it to a point where the public has the right to give you input and wanna have that kind of a meeting, at least you can begin with this.
Well, that's what we're doing.
Does this fit your needs, Commissioner Garing?
Yeah. I think
Give it
it's,
to the public?
yeah, and the public will, some of them, I already know, are gonna want it to say more than this, back to what we've taken out, and some of them are gonna want it to maybe even be less than this.
Yeah, I've had the calls for less.
Yeah, that's why I think, you know, if it's a living document, we can adjust as need be.
I took into account, it's amazing how many people have my email address, in the county, on both sides. Saying, hey, thought this might be useful information for you, and tried to address a few minor things in this, but trying to keep it as general as I can so that you have a starting point. Go from
Yeah, I
there.
think we have to just consider it that.
Other questions, comments? I think our intent was to approve a draft opposing 30-30 to present to the public
Yes.
Right.
and get public input. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Becker, second by Commissioner Garing. Ready for discussion? I will be voting against it. I still feel it should be a policy statement.
Policy statement?
I don't see a resolution is the right approach. But it's been a good discussion, it's been educational, and I in no way tried to inhibit or stop discussion. It's been a good learning discussion. But I still think that letters to legislators would be a better approach.
It may wind up that way. Public, I'm gonna let the public make that decision on this one.
But if you pass this, then what happens?
No, we're passing it for the public to view. Let them pick it apart.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
We're not gonna,
So just to be clear, we're not adopting this resolution
no.
today. You're deciding whether or not to send this on for public comment.
Correct.
Okay,
So this is not the final.
I see. Okay, we're not taking a vote on this then?
Not for passage as it stands, no. You're simply pre-approving it in essence for purposes of discussion as a template.
Okay.
You're gonna let it out of the room.
Yeah.
And I did have a constituent call me and ask if it does pass, that, you know, the public can review it. Will it be on the county website? And I would say yes.
Good question. Okay, any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed nay, nay. So 4 in favor, Mueller opposed. All right, now we start the process. So, Commissioner Balke,
I gotta go.
I think we made the decision. So we should-
Thank you very much.
So first step is on the county website. I think we talked
Well, that was my answer to that constituent.
comment. Is that
Yeah, we'll get it out there. We'll put it on the website and put some
that way the
information out.
public can see it? Next thing would be to set a date and location for in-person public hearing. And obviously, people can submit written and email at any time.
30 days?
About this week? Sometime the 4th week of September?
If I'm gonna be there, it wouldn't work. I'm speaking at the IMLA conference in Florida, here, and here.
all right, Brad, when you get back on the 30th, let's go ahead and.
Nice. Yeah. How about 5 minutes before you leave?
Yeah, that would be good. It'd be this afternoon. I'll be in Kansas City leaving from there because it's cheaper.
I'm gonna guess an evening meeting.
24th?
Well, no, it'd have to be the 23rd.
Oh,
You're gone the 24th, right?
Right.
at the conclusion of our regular meeting?
No, it'd be in the evening, because we've had
September.
several people want it, so they don't have to skip work.
It seems like a sign.
October.
How about the 30th, because it's the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation?
Oh.
Here's your sign.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can even go into October too.
So you wanna go for the 30th of September? Okay, I'm not hearing any objection.
I don't have any problem with either day.
I can make that work.
Okay. What time? 6, 7? What time are most evening meetings?
6 or 7, 6.
6? Okay, 6 o'clock, September 30th, that's a Monday. 12:40 commercial should be appropriate. That way if people wanna Zoom in, we've got Zoom.
Oh, out at the,
We'll see if it's available,
Check if it's available.
Will there be food?
if you bring it.
God.
Free range. All right,
I could get Casey's Pizza.
Somebody
Somebody else will have to get it though. I'm sure.
So the time is 7:15.
They deliver
6 o'clock.
sometimes, I think.
yes.
Sometime.
Are you gonna get back to
30-minute
my
guarantee.
administrative business? Okay.
I was just making sure, is there anything else on the 30 we need to?
No,
We've got the message, the method of getting it to the public, we've got the public hearing date, people can submit comments in advance. To the commission, to the administrator to get to the commission. Got the other information?
Have I got what?
All the information we need for the meeting?
I think so.
Okay.
We've got 6 p.m. September 30th. Where is it gonna be?
12:40 commercial,
Up the new building,
If it's available, we'll have to check.
if available, yeah.
'cause it's got Zoom options
And
that way.
we're just gonna leave it at that's what time and what day.
But
If
people
the
can come,
meeting place isn't determined yet.
it can be available publicly that way. All right, that's done, we'll move back to administrative.
Okay. You had some information there in your packet, which I'm not gonna go over unless someone has questions. The one thing that I did have for today that hasn't been accomplished yet is Charter Resolution number 15, which is exempting Marion County from provisions of the school inspection. You've all discussed this. We did have a previous charter on this topic, so I added section 5 that says this charter resolution supersedes Marion County Charter Resolution 12.
That's fine. Charter for a charter is fine.
This is the one we don't mandate it, but if we want to in the future, we can.
Yes.
We approved the draft of that earlier, so.
2024-19.
No, it's actually gonna be, since it's a charter, it's a different numbering system, and I checked how all of ours are numbered, and they're just in numerical order. So we're ready for 15.
Any questions on the charter resolution? Okay, if not, I move approval of charter resolution number 15, exempting Marion County, Kansas from certain provisions of KSA 75-201, specifically regarding annual sanitation inspections of school buildings and grounds by the county health officer. Second by Commissioner Gehring. Questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion carried 4-0.
No, I was just gonna.
Oh. I
Since
didn't think
Randy
about
was
it. I should
caught
have
up,
caught Randy.
God, if one of you
before
voted no, we were done. Thank you.
Oh, did you vote yea or nay?
that. See, you can sway it. You can defeat the charter resolution.
No, you can't. I'll make you the bad guy.
Yeah, there you go. No.
Yes, I did, and I thought that was the case, but I don't want to verbalize that.
Well, yeah,
No,
no.
No, I'm kidding.
Oh.
You got them upset.
This wasn't my intent.
No.
All right, next.
That's all.
That was it?
Yes.
Guess we could have done it in the 2-3 minutes we had. All right, commission comments?
It's sort of erecting the building, there was metal up.
Good deal. It's always nice to see progress. Okay, any other commission comments? Payday meeting on Friday the 30th, 9 o'clock. And we will have a regular meeting the day after Labor Day on Tuesday, the 3rd, at 12:30. With that, I move to adjourn. Second by Commissioner Gehring. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carried 4-0. We are adjourned.
You want to eat stuff, Ken?
You wanna